Oh, hey there. Are you real? Am I real? What is a Makyo? I'm putting the word down here, the spelling. I want to talk today about Makyo, a friend of mine over on Patreon named Johnny Pastrami, not his real name, kind of a fun, loving, free-spirited patron, sent me a message. He just got back from another weekend Zen Buddhist session or retreat. He called it a session. This would be like a Zazen kai. It's a weekend retreat that he just got back from. And he said, I'd really like to rest, but now I gotta go to work tomorrow. And he said, here's a topic for a video, Makyo. Which I thought was so, well done, Johnny Pastrami, because I thought, what happened to you this past weekend that you sent me a very short, to the point email that says, say something about Makyo, please. A Makyo is basically a hallucination of some kind. It can be a visual hallucination. It can be something that erupts inside your psyche, or it can actually be a smell or something that you hear. But basically you're on your cushion, you're doing your Zen practice, and you have a hallucination of some kind. Now, within the Zen tradition and within my experience at the monastery, because we had people who had Makyo all the time. This is not some fancy term from Meiji era Japan. This is a pretty common event when you sit a person of contemporary character on a cushion and deprive them of the food diet that they want, deprive them of sleep, deprive them of conversation, deprive them of the internet, deprive them of any and all of their usual comforts and addictions and orienters. Make a person sit and just breathe. Take the mind out of its usual contexts where it can keep engaging with the surroundings. When you do that, the mind sometimes coughs up the most amazing things. I'll give you an example of a Makyo. When I was at the Mount Baldy Zen Center, where I did my training, I had arrived at the very beginning of the summer Seichu. So there were two training periods, formal, strict training periods during a monastic year. Summer Seichu, winter Seichu. Summer Seichu was about 3 months long. I was not prepared to sit on a cushion for 7 days every 2 weeks. We had a session every 2 weeks, I believe it was, 2 or 3 weeks. And these sessions or 7-day long retreats were incredibly intensive. And I remember at one point, I started feeling a sensation right here, baby, where that old pineal gland used to be. Is that what they called it? The third eye spot. The third eye spot, right? It was right here. It was a so here's what it was: a combination of things. It was a physical sensation somewhere in between like a tingling and a kind of a pressure. And it was an experience as well. It was almost pleasurable. It was almost a kind of pleasure, like there was a jewel here, a third eye here, or a spiritual jewel of some kind, radiating a kind of energy through my sitting. And I would focus on this sometimes to see if I was nutballs. And in fact, when I did that, it would grow. And it would be a very strong physical sensation just in this spot right here, the third eye. The third eye spot. So really, the attitude in Zen is to keep sitting and to sit through boredom as well as the most profound and amazing events that can happen inside you when you sit, and as well as through any visual or oral or scent or mental hallucination of any kind. Fundamental to the principle or concept or teaching of Makyo, for me, is this the Zen teaching of no attachment. You just don't attach to it. So it becomes a Makyo or a hallucination, a problem, a demon, when you attach to it. So when I had that third eye experience, I didn't attach to it. My school and the people who gave me meditation instruction were really instructive and clear in this sense. They were like, you just sit through it. It's not a big deal. Don't bring that stuff to Roshi, our teacher. He'll just use it to make your life miserable. He'll probably throw gasoline on the Makyo fire and say, oh yes, you go back and just imagine your third eye expanding to blow up your whole head into supreme enlightenment. You know, he would have perhaps taken it and run with it to maybe help you learn the hard way that Makyo is just that. It's a hallucination. It's an experience, an inner experience. And I don't poo-poo these experiences. I didn't throw out, I still remember that feeling. I don't know what it was. But the point was, I tried not to get distracted by it, freaked out by it, impressed by it, or blown away by it. Tried not to put any meaning on it. I just kept sitting. So Makyo, again, for me, is a very specific type of hallucinatory experience that happens during meditation and seems to have the feeling of being important somehow or significant spiritually. And the Zen school says, nah, just keep doing your Zazen practice. And usually what happens is you develop a deeper practice from that. And you've kind of withstood a moment where your psyche rebelled against silence. It rebelled against mujo? Muho? No mind. It rebelled against no mind. It rebelled against not having something to go after. It rebelled against you maintaining posture and putting your effort and energy and heart and soul and sincerity into posture and breath. Because the mind is such a powerful thing, such a powerful engine, right? That it burps up, or like a lava bubble from way down below in the deep crust, the core of the mental magma, produces some kind of sulfurous inner event that really can be intoxicating. Then again, I don't have mental health issues. For some people, it's not just an event that you can sit through, a Makyo. It's not just an event that you can speak kind of as, I don't want to say glibly, but as lightly as I'm kind of speaking about it now. I mean, I remember when I was at the monastery, really good friend of mine, a wonderful person, a woman, an artist, a thinker, was living at the monastery for a while. And it was like a Tuesday night. There was no retreat going on. There were only like 5 people in the meditation hall. We were all just kind of phoning it in. And out of nowhere, she produced a scream. I will never forget it. It is seared in my consciousness. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was like from some place that maybe most of us don't have access to, fortunately. And we had a big meeting afterwards, and we talked about what to do about it. And it was the beginning of the end of her time at the monastery. Zen wasn't really the practice for her. I mean, this was a psychotic episode of some kind. She went from Zen practice to a Tibetan Vajrayana practice, which it is my understanding, works more explicitly with these energies. You are actually using visualization, and I think I have a friend who's actually works in this tradition, and she's explained it to me. And my memory of what she said is that, Zen is just very straightforward, almost a little dry, very clear cut. And it doesn't allow for like these different gradations or levels or dimensions of being, where maybe there are gods and devas and demons, etc. So this woman I'm speaking of that was sitting in our meditation hall and had that experience left Zen and went into Vajrayana, where she could more explicitly work with what in the Zen tradition we would just kind of call Makyo and say, don't pay any attention to it. I don't know whatever happened to her. I don't know how that journey went for her in this new tradition, but I wish you well, dear one, wherever you are. Again, I want to kind of reiterate the valence of the term Makyo. It refers to, at least for me, sitting on a cushion and then getting deluded by something that happens on the cushion. This can just be an insight that is concussively profound. It blows your brain away and you get stuck on it. That happens again and again and again. I used to remember when I was the shoji at the monastery, and I would get a knock on the door, and I would open it. It's like late at night. I'm just going to bed. I've served everybody tea. I've cleaned the zendo. I've changed out everybody's napkins in the zendo. I've washed my own white collar from my robes because it's covered in that brown summer sweat, brown California summer sweat. Just getting ready to lay down in my bed. I'm in my boxers and I hear a knock on the door, and I'll open the door and there's a student standing there with that look in their eyes, and you're like, uh-oh, they've had an insight. And they want to talk about it and they want to share it, and you can tell they're stuck on it. They're stuck on it. They're convincing themselves of it. They're caught in the general atmosphere of this experience that they had. And it's going to be a problem. Either they're going to have to let go of it, or they're going to quit Zen, because you can't keep... Zen is a minimalistic experience. You cannot carry around all your insights, right? You got to drop them and keep moving, keep re-manifesting in the present moment with nothing, no insights, no teachings, no practices, just making relationship completely and totally with what's in front of you. The second you grab onto anything, whether it's a visual hallucination of seeing the Buddha, or an aural hallucination of hearing the voice of God, or a mental hallucination of having a really profound insight that you just know means you had an enlightenment experience. Any kind of experience that you grab onto and you make real, and you make sort of attachment worthy in your mind, that is considered to be in Zen a kind of a hallucination. So this is why the term Makyo is helpful or useful, because, man, we go through our life, the sort of quote-unquote sanest among us go through our life brimming with hallucinations, just overflowing with ideas that we believe, manifesting different moods and attitudes that we think are totally true and justified and worthy. We're really mad about that Kamala and Trump debate for X reason or Y reason, or we really have a true reason to be very upset with our parents, or we have some goal that we think is very worthy of achieving, etc., etc., etc. No matter what it is, our mind is grabbing onto, attaching to, no matter how real it seems, that is Makyo. It's a hallucination. It's illusion. Finally, real quickly, I want to, just because they're kind of fun to talk about, it's fun to talk. Sorry. Okay, just real quickly, I want to talk about two things that happened to me. And I'll talk about this real quickly. And I only want to talk about it because it's kind of fun to tell these stories. And I don't consider these to be Makyo. And I'll get to that. So after I left the monastery, I went to the Amazon, buried myself in a forest with a shaman, and did a 7-day ayahuasca retreat. So we would do ayahuasca one day, the next day we would process it. So 3 out of the 7 days we did ayahuasca. Now, the first day, I had an experience that was truly interesting. I will give you the abbreviated Encyclopedia Britannica version. I was in the dwelling, it was like exposed to the elements hut, and I was sitting on the ground, and the ayahuasca started kicking in. And there appeared before me a shadow that was shaped like a human being, and it was standing straight up, and it was a woman, and she had no face. It was just solid black, like something out of a movie. She had hair, and she was moving like this. And I want to say maybe there were 2 of them, but I remember this one specifically. And I was not stoned. That was not the feeling. The feeling was that it was totally me in my normal state of mind, but that I'd entered another dimension. It was like some cosmic ghosts came and put a black hood over my head and threw me into the back of a black van and drove through the freaking universe, through a wormhole and into a parallel dimension. That was the feeling. And I remember this spirit without a face dancing and beckoning me. And I knew that if I was supposed to walk into her and then I would go somewhere. I never did. And in my subsequent 2 sessions of ayahuasca on that retreat, I never experienced that woman again. Cut to like 10 days later, the retreat's totally over. I'm down in Iquitos, I think is the city, and there's some outdoor market. And it's crazy, there's people everywhere, and I'm checking out the stalls, and I'm jaw drops. And I run into this guy's booth, and I'm like, what is that? Because I saw that on my ayahuasca trip. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a spirit that is part of this region, and she, blesses and haunts ayahuasca practitioners. And my mind was blown, and I really wanted to take a picture of it, but it was very clear that I had to buy the statue, which I did not do because it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But it was identical to what I had seen in the and during my ayahuasca journey. Identical. Now, here's my point. Was that Makyo? Was that a hallucination? I don't know. The experience was real. It was a real experience, and the experience was of some kind of other, right? That was the experience. Now, it may be that when you take ayahuasca, it retards certain aspects of one's consciousness and exaggerates other aspects of one's mental state to make you feel like there is an other there. I really don't know what the answer is from a spiritual perspective or a neurochemical perspective. And it's not my job to answer the question of what was that. As a Zen Buddhist priest and practitioner, I can just hold my jaw open with wonder sometimes at this world, at how much I don't know about what's really going on everywhere and all around me, and how contained within certain parameters my experience of this world is. My sense organs, my limited intelligence, the limitations of the human brain, which, like in a Kantian perspective, there are certain categories that I will necessarily put my experiences into, and that shapes what they are to me. Like, I'm so grateful as a Zen practitioner to be able to have many different kinds of experiences and not have to have them mean anything and not have to have them fit into a particular explanatory box of some kind. So that's the general approach I think to have to Makyo and to experiences on the cushion, is you're totally open to what's happening, right? Whether it's a third eye being burned into your cortex or it's a shadow woman appearing to you on an ayahuasca trip, or if it's the boredom of all of those experiences fading, and here you are 2 years later, sitting on your cushion with your same old boring self, your body sweating, your mind distracted, you're completely open and aware of and awake to that experience too. Hope that's helpful, my friends. I had another Makyo story I wanted to tell you. It's a fascinating one. I did it in another one of my videos. I forget what it was. Something about spiritual woo-woo experiences. Otherwise, friends, listen, I really appreciate being able to give you these videos. I'm really grateful to have a YouTube channel where I can post this stuff and connect with people who are out there living their lives and trying to do so in an awake and non-crappy, non-selfish manner. I'm honored to be a part of that. Your practice and even your spiritual life, if you will. So I do these videos for free, but if you want to support this channel, you can come to patreon.com/Shozan Jack Hobner, and you can support this channel there. You can also go to the description in this video where there is a link to PayPal, and I always appreciate getting donations through that as well. It's like passing the begging bowl at the monastery. We always had a donation box in the back of the corner, so that's what this part of the video is. It's my donation box. In any event, you don't got to donate if you don't want to. You can walk right out of our meditation hall and go on to your next video or whatever you're going to do today. Whatever it is, I wish you well, and I'll see you next week. Ciao. Makyo.